The way, I'm not saying it's going to be this time around, but if it were, what would be the fallout? Pollster Frank Luntz, one of the best reads of this sort of stuff I know. Frank, what do you think?
Well, it's certainly going to matter in the next 2 weeks because we're right up to Iowa and New Hampshire, and the candidates are going to have to demonstrate that they have not just a command of the economy for today, but they understand the concern and anxiety that the average shareholder has. Neil, more than half of Americans own shares. That means more than half of Americans have seen their retirement savings drop by more than 10%. And that's the number that I always look for. Anything under 10% and is not relevant to the average American because the number's too small. Once you cross a 10% drop, then they truly start to pay attention. If it gets to 15%, then people may actually start to change their votes. Right now, there are two candidates who benefit. On the Republican side, I do think Donald Trump benefits because I've seen all the polling. A plurality of Americans think that he understands the economy better than any of the other Republican candidates. He certainly can talk about the role that China has played in this since it has been instrumental. And on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton actually benefits because she's the person who can say, look, I've had the experience. I've done it as a U.S. Senator. I'm Secretary of State. She's going to bear more of the responsibility in the long term, but in the short term, with anxiety at a new high, she's the one who would benefit from the market coming apart.
I just wonder for the incumbent party holding on to the White House, it's an uphill climb, right? Whether she's up to that task or not. The fact of the matter is, if the world seems to be unraveling or a bull market, which just gets old, like all bull markets do, or this recovery, 74, 75 months old, is over, which would be just the natural way to recoveries, and it's exceeded that, but then she's in trouble anyway, isn't she?
Well, you use the word recovery. The average American doesn't see a recovery. The average American is still further behind today than they were in 2008. The average American doesn't have the retirement savings, doesn't have a projection of having more money in the future.
I understand that, Frank, but wouldn't that have materialized in polls where in one-on-one contests she's not getting blown out, at least, and against many, she leads? I guess what I'm asking is, unless this really accelerates, Democrats are going to come back and say, well, bad as things are now, I think Josh Earnest said as much yesterday. We are up appreciably from where we were when we took office.
Exactly, and so she will not be held accountable. Also, you've got to remember, this is still 9 months away. That the economic collapse happened in late September, only 6 weeks before the election. We are 9 months. That is a lifetime. So the markets are going to go up and down between now and then. There's going to be a foreign policy crisis. There's going to be an economic crisis between now and then. So you can't make that judgment. What you have to focus on is the impact that it has on Iowa, which are small businesses, New Hampshire, which is a little bit more corporate, and South Carolina, which really is a wild card that we don't really know. But in the end, and I'm going to make this projection public, I do think in the end, Bernie Sanders does win in Iowa and New Hampshire, and the reason why is that Democrats believe that of all these ups and downs, it's economic insecurity and income inequality that matters most. The very thing that would defeat the Democrats in November, which is Bernie Sanders' candidacy, is going to help him in those two early states.
Now, I know markets don't have quite the pull they used to, or that as many individuals as in the past are participating, but they do see these events. They do watch shows like this. They do catch up with their friends, see how they're doing. Do you think that casts a pall on Democrats beyond just what's happening in markets, or do they step back and say, well, you know, I can remember Republicans in a meltdown, a pox on both their houses. Is it really a jump ball?
In this case, the key voters are the independents, and the independents cannot participate in Iowa. They can participate in New Hampshire, and everyone can participate in South Carolina. And independents will look at the Democrats and say, you know what? We went through the same thing with the Republicans. We threw them out. I think it hurts the Democratic Party in the end, but let's focus on those swing voters because in the end they determine who gets the majority.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Frank Luntz.